Welcome back to Bring It to the Table. Tonight's guest is Matthew Morgan. Matthew Morgan is the pastor of Palo Alto Church of Christ. He is a close friend of mine, but more importantly, maybe more importantly, he is a father and a husband. So let's get to know him. Matthew, thanks for being here tonight.
Hey, I'm happy to be here.
It's second time in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
We're here with Ben Maxwell.
Yes.
A while back, ironically doing a man-friendly event.
That's right. I think we talked about men's
Yeah.
mental health and just things like that. Yeah.
So you weren't able to be at the thing Saturday night, the Man Up event. I've been plugging that here on the show for a couple of weeks, but it was a really, really great time. But obviously something that's very, very important to me.
Yeah,
so.
and I was on vacation and coming home from vacation, but I got text from multiple people that night of people that went who said this was a really great event. And specifically Kyle that said Kyle did a great job.
Dude,
event, so.
Here we go. That's what I was fishing for.
Yeah,
if you
that's
couldn't,
right.
That's what we're here for, to learn about me tonight. So born in Fort Worth, raised in Abilene. When did you move from Fort Worth to Abilene?
Yeah, I don't remember living in Fort Worth as a child. So I mean, I moved to Abilene a little bit before I was 2 years old, and so I don't have any memories from childhood in Fort Worth. I moved back to Fort Worth after we got married and lived there. But yeah, I moved to Abilene pretty young.
So most of your childhood, all of your childhood spent in Abilene?
All of my childhood's been in Abilene.
What was it like in your house? I didn't ask you this on here. Any brothers or sisters?
Yeah, I've got an older brother, 2 younger sisters, and a younger brother. So there were 5 of us in our home. So it was a pretty lively house that I grew up in. Yeah.
It's hard because I had we had 7 of us.
Okay.
That's step siblings, obviously. Yeah. It's very hard for parents to provide for that many children.
Yeah.
Man. It's you see it. It's hard for 2.
Yeah, that's right.
Oldest to youngest, what's the age gap? Yeah.
So my brother is 2 years older than me. My sister that's directly younger than me is 2 years younger than me. And then we had a little bit of a gap. My sister that's younger than that is 7 years younger, and then I've got a brother that's 9 years younger.
Okay.
So from oldest to youngest, 11 years.
Are you, as far as your brothers go, would you consider yourself closer to the youngest of the bunch, or?
That's a good question. The younger one is more available, for conversation and things like that. He reaches out more consistently, but I'm close to my older brother as well. Especially when we have gone through some trials in the last few years, him and I, we've been there to support one another. Yeah. So I'm pretty close to both of them.
I asked that because I got a little brother, and I'm very, very tight with him.
Yeah.
He reaches out all the time, same thing. So just kind of wanted to see, because it's about this little bit different. I'm 34, he's 20, so 14-year age gap there.
Yeah.
But he'll...
Is he the youngest?
He is.
I
the
read
baby.
something recently that usually, in a big family especially, the youngest child is the most perceptive and connected to all of the siblings and parents. Usually that's the case, and that's certainly the case in my family.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So your parents, we'll start with your dad.
Yeah.
What was your relationship like with him?
He was present. He, he coached baseball teams that I was a part of, or basketball teams and things like that. But I would say, so he was present. He was at, there was a lot of quantity time with him.
Okay.
So
I see the difference there. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of quantity time with him, but also, I think that he did not know how to be emotionally available. I don't think that was modeled for him, and so I think it was more difficult for him. And so, sometimes I can lament that, but at the same time, man, to show up and to be present at events and activities, and even to be a part of that when you have 5 kids, that says something. And so I try to be gracious because I'd like for the same graciousness from my kids as well, because I know I'm not doing everything perfect either.
We talked the other night actually at Man Up about how it's kind of our jobs as kids to take the best and the worst of our parents and learn from both of those.
Yeah.
And to make sure that we raise our kids in a way to where they can do the same with us.
Yeah. I don't know that that's possible when you're a kid, though.
It's hard. It's hard.
When you're a kid.
Perspective.
And especially when before you have kids of your own, I think it's really difficult to empathize with the weaknesses of your parents.
Yeah.
It's not until you have kids and you're like, oh, I've got tons of weaknesses as a parent as well, that you start to, I think, hopefully grow with some mercy and empathy for your own parents. But I mean, for me at least, early on, and in my conversations with young adults who are grappling with their struggles with their parents and their memories of their growing up that weren't as great as they wish they could be, that's been my experience, is that it's really difficult when you're a young adult, when you're a teenager, to empathize with your parents' weaknesses.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about how having 2 is tough, and now you look at having 5, having 7.
Yeah,
it's like, dude, that's yeah. I don't know how they did it.
Right.
Let alone got us all, most of us, through high school.
Yeah.
Got us. I mean, it's crazy. So your mom, tell me about her.
Yeah, my mom is very quiet. She's an introvert. She is very guarded. It is very difficult for her to share her emotions and feelings. Like, if you tried to like dig into her life, she would immediately try to turn around and like make it about you, like want to hear about your life instead. And part of that's because, you know, she wants to be a good listener and things like that. But another part of that is that she just comes from that generation that just struggled to share more.
Yeah, I think that's I think that is a generational thing.
Yeah, I definitely think it is. And you know, there's a part of that is selfless, and a part of that is probably not healthy. And I say that with all due respect to that generation, knowing that my generation as well, our generation as well, we have our own strengths and weaknesses in our generation.
Can't wait to hear what our kids say about us one day.
I can wait. I'm like
dreading
it, you know.
Hopefully my son's not podcasting in a few years. So let's go to high school. So you obviously went to high school in Abilene as well.
Yeah.
So tell me about, like, actually, backtrack. This is what I wanted to ask, because you talked about this in church Sunday. What was always your plan for yourself? Because it wasn't always preaching.
No, it never was preaching. It was never preaching. You know, when you're a kid, you have these like grandiose ideas of these amazing jobs that you're going to have. And so I mentioned it on Sunday that what I wanted to be when I was young was a play-by-play commentator for the MLB. I loved baseball. We watched baseball all the time. We played baseball all the time. That was the sport in our home that was most followed. And so that's what I wanted to be. But as I got a little bit older and became a little bit more realistic, that like most of the time that's given to former players and, you know, people that are more connected. Then I wanted to be a teacher or professor of history. I loved history. I still love history. And so when I went to college, and even when I graduated from college, I graduated with a history degree. And so my bachelor's degree is in history. My plan was to maybe teach and get work on my master's and doctorate so that I could become a professor. That was my plan.
So Abilene Christian, is that
that's what college I went to.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So high school, you're going through. That's always your plan. Were you like the go out and party kid? Were you the go home after school and play video games kid?
No, I was not the go home. If I could be out of my house, I would. And that wasn't I didn't want to be at my house with my parents or anything like that. I'll say it this way instead. If I could be with friends, then I wanted to be with friends. And that's one thing my parents did incredibly well, was they made our home a place where my friends felt comfortable hanging out.
It's important.
And when Lauren and I got married, that was one of the things that she said. She said, I hope that when we have kids that are teenagers, that our home can be as open and welcoming as your house was growing up. So when school was out for the weekend, like wherever my friends were, that's where I wanted to be. So if that was at my house, great. Most of the time, that was not at my house; it was at other people's houses. So I was out of the house all the time. I was somewhat of a cautious kid, so I didn't do a lot of partying. I did some partying, but I was probably tempered in that only because I was afraid of what would happen if I partied too much. You know, I was a little just cautious in that way. I was definitely, though, that was the scene that I like pursued, I guess. I wanted to be at the places where like the kids that were partying were hanging out. I wanted to be there.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Like I just got you kind of want to like be at the car lot, but I'm not trying to buy a car.
That's right.
Kind of thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Growing up, what was faith a big thing in your household, or did that kind of develop over time?
No, it was a big thing in my household, and you know, I think that probably most teenagers that grow up in a home where faith is an important part of the household, you know, go through a season when they're teenagers where they struggle with consistency. You know, I mean, and so I struggled with consistency with that. You know, when I was at church, like I portrayed myself in one way, and on Friday and Saturday night I portrayed myself differently. Yeah. And you know, I think that was just something that it took some time for Jesus to get to and challenge that. But all that to say, faith was important in my family from a very young age.
That's big. That's a big deal. So I imagine that's kind of what shaped what ends up happening. So we'll get there, obviously. So you met Lauren in high school.
Actually, in middle school. She moved to Abilene when we were in 8th grade. We're same grade. She started coming to church at the same place that my family was going to church.
She also originally from Texas and just ended up moving too? Okay.
Yeah. She grew up in several smaller towns around Texas and ended up moving to Abilene in middle school and stayed there. Her family still lives there. In fact, our dads were friends before we were friends. But yeah, we were in the same youth group, went to the same high school, but we were not close friends. She was a very good girl in high school. Okay. And she has always been and is still today a rule follower. So she was not at the scenes that I was as in high school. She was well liked and popular and stuff like that, but she just wasn't going to do that stuff.
She was smart.
Yeah, that's right. She had her level head way before I did.
Goodness. All right, we're good. That was a little indigestion there. My goodness. A lot of barbecue this weekend. Yeah. Saturday, Man Up, and then Robbie Livingston brings us up to the lake.
I heard you're at the lake Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's just a lot of barbecue over the weekend. Yeah. So my acid reflux has been going nuts the last 12 hours or so. Getting old is not
that's right.
It's not for the weak. It is not at all. Never was an issue growing up. Never was.
I watched my 15-year-old eat, and I'm like, how do you look the way that you look right now?
Right, dude.
All that you're eating.
It's shameful. People don't realize how big high school football is in Texas, and especially in your area because Abilene is like storied in high school football.
Yeah. So Friday Night Lights, the book. It was a book first, and then it became a TV show. It was based on a school in Odessa. Odessa's an hour and a half maybe west of Abilene. We were in the same district, so every year we played Odessa Permian in football, and you know, it's huge. Like every game is sold out. We used to, our junior and senior year, again, my parents were pretty lenient. They would let us check out early on Fridays, and so we would check out of school at 11, and we'd go pick up a grill, and we'd be in the football parking lot at 12 for a high school football game.
That's awesome.
We traveled all over Texas for playoff games and stuff like that. That's a huge memory of mine from high school, is high school football. It was huge.
Never played?
Never played. Played baseball in high school.
Yeah. You're pretty good. I mean, I saw you swinging a bat out there. You got a good swing.
So I was actually better I was a pitcher.
Okay.
In high school, and I wasn't a great hitter. So if I wasn't pitching, then
most pitchers aren't. They don't make them hit anymore, man.
Ohtani's a A rare
Well,
bird.
he's an outlier
Yeah.
at this point. My goodness. We were just talking about him before we came on. So you meet Lauren in middle school. How do you guys end up connecting?
So both of us lived in Abilene for, I lived my whole life basically. She lived for 5 years, and we both went to Abilene Christian. And probably one of my regrets in college, and I think she would say the same, even though it led us to us being together, is that when you grow up in Abilene and then you go to Abilene Christian, when everybody else at the first few weeks of school are meeting a bunch of people and trying to figure out who their friends are going to be, it's really easy for you to just kind of congregate with the people that you already kind of know, who are in Abilene. And so we did that. We had a friend group that most of us were people that grew up in Abilene, and so we started to really become friends our freshman year of college. And then it's like the typical story. We went on a ski trip together and connected on that ski trip, and when we came home we were dating.
So you guys have been together for how long now?
We've been together for I got to get this right, 24 years.
This is going to be public.
24 years. We've been married for 21 years.
Jeez, wow.
I know.
This is one question I didn't prep before. How old are you again?
I'm 43.
43.
Yeah.
Been together for a long time.
Yeah.
There's certainly trials in that amount of time. Without, you don't have to share anything that you're uncomfortable with talking about, but tell me about, like, you're with somebody for 20 years. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be, especially, I mean, in your line of work too, because your line of work, which we'll get into shortly, can be mentally taxing.
Sure.
So, like, talk to me about, like, balancing those things.
So the first time that I went to counseling was within the first year that I was in ministry, and we went to counseling because we were doing a horrible job of balancing work and family. And I was saying yes to everything. I am in my core a people pleaser, and so I have to really be careful about that. And when I was 25 years old when I got my first full-time job in a church, immature, saying yes to every opportunity that I could, just wanting to please people. And it was wearing Lauren out. I mean, she was exhausted. And so we figured out, okay, this is not working. And so we went counseling and got, had a counselor who had been a minister before to help us with work, family balance. And so we really struggle with that. But that was, I mean, you're right. Marriage is hard. Like, I know all of my weaknesses and shortcomings and ugliness and selfishness. I see it so clearly. And also I can, like, hold up that, like, I'm not a horrible person, right? Like, I'm not a bad person.
Right.
Lauren is certainly not a bad person. She's a great person. And even for us, like, two people who, faith has been important to us, being good, being a good people have been important to us, even like two good people. Marriage is incredibly hard and challenging, and it's taken a lot of work. And I would say probably it's very clear there's a line. For the first 14 years of our marriage, we had an unhealthy marriage, and it was really challenging for both of us. I would say especially for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, geez, I want to keep going on that, but I don't.
We can.
Well, yeah. Let's talk about some of that. Do you feel comfortable sharing any of the, like, specifics of, like, talk about your counseling? Like, what goes into that kind of thing? Because that's I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase this. That's not something that I think a lot of couples are open to.
Oh man, we've gone to counseling multiple times. We've gone to counseling for work-life balance. I've gone to counseling on my own to just deal with some anxiety. I've had struggles with anxiety, so I've gone on my own to deal with anxiety. We've gone together to talk about, like, hey, how can she support me when I'm feeling, when I'm in the season where I'm struggling with anxiety. We've gone to counseling when there's been, like, more significant crisis in our marriage, when we've encountered problems that we feel like we can't we can't figure out the way forward without some help.
Right.
We have embraced counseling, and I'm a strong advocate for that. There's just sometimes we just need some help, and we can look for it in our friends. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. I think that you should have some friends that you talk to, but at some level, you want somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
To have an informed and response and give you some wisdom. And so we're great advocates of counseling. We've had bad counselors. Like we were in a crisis. We were not getting along. We were just in a struggle, and we were in a tough spot. And we went to this counselor, and it was awful. Like he was awful. He said some things that were just, he didn't know us, and he made some assumptions. We walked out, both of us, angry at that counselor. And that was actually great for us, because it was like, for the first time in a while, we weren't clashing with each other. We were together, and we were, upset with somebody else. We actually needed it.
Rachel and I had roommates for maybe the first 6 or 7 years or so of our relationship. And we always talked about how like we could not stand having a roommate, but it made us stronger because it was almost common enemy.
Yeah.
Like we have something to bond over. Like, dude, this guy is like terrible.
Is this why you were married?
No, not since we've been married. We've been, our only roommates since we've been married were her parents because of Hurricane Michael. But
still, like being in a new relationship,
it was
like,
I would argue almost harder then, because there was you're still kind of building the trust.
Sure.
It
really
really
figure things out. Is this going to work or not?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was very challenging, but I think it made us stronger. Plus, things were a lot cheaper back then, and splitting rent 3 ways was great.
Yeah.
All right. So, at what point does Matthew, the teacher, professor, baseball player, become Matthew, the church employee, I guess we'll say, for lack of better words, because you didn't start as a pastor. You got hired, you did 10 years, I think you said, as a youth minister, right?
Yeah. Yes. So when I graduated from college, Lauren had a semester left of her master's work. She's an accountant. And so she had 1 semester left to get her master's. And so I was just going to work while she did that, and then figure out what I was going to do for my graduate school. And in that time, a minister at our church where we were volunteering asked me to come and work for him part-time for the summer. And so I did that. And by the end of the summer, like I just felt like a calling I was working with teenagers. And so I just felt like, okay, this is going well. I'm really enjoying it. See a lot of fruit from it. And so I just started praying and having conversations with Lauren and with close friends. Is this something that God might be calling me to? And so instead of going and get my graduate, degree in history or in education, I went back and got my graduate degree in Christian ministry. And so for the next couple of years, I stayed at that church working part-time and getting my graduate degree. And then so I did youth ministry for 10 years in Fort Worth. As soon as I graduated with my master's, I started working with this church in Fort Worth with teenagers, and did that for 10 years and loved it. Like the teenagers there were great. Families were great. Ministry was fun. Again, I was 25 and immature, and, there's things I would do differently today, but all in all, it was like God blessed that ministry. But it got to a point where I could tell I can do this well. I can continue to do youth ministry well, or I can try to be a good dad. And I'm not going to be able to do both.
So let's talk about that, because obviously somewhere in there you become a father for the first time.
Yes, yeah.
Will.
Yes.
Your firstborn.
Yes.
Talk to me about, so you find out you're going to have a son. You obviously you find out you're going to be a dad first before you find out you're going to have a son. You go through the panic of like, okay, because that's what it is, man. You're like super
Absolutely.
happy, and then you panic, and then you're happy, and you panic. So talk to me about like you're going through all these stages in your life. You are you in college when you guys find out about Will, or are you fresh
No.
out? Okay.
We were I was already working at the church.
Okay. So you've got this new position that
Yeah.
you haven't been at very long.
Yeah.
And you find out you're going to be a dad.
Yeah.
So what's that like?
I mean, I was so excited. I had wanted to be a dad,
Yeah.
for oddly, like probably since I was a teenager, I knew like I want to have kids when I get older.
Of course.
And so I was super pumped, and also just like, oh, it's gonna be fine. In fact, I told these two friends that we had that lived nearby that went to church with us. They would come over all the time, play board games with us, and they were like, we just did life with them. And they were super excited for us, but they were also like, like they said to us one time, like, like this is gonna like change some things. Like we're so happy for you and we can't wait to be a part of it, but this is gonna change some things for us. And I was like, no, it's not. Like this kid like is not gonna change our life. We're just welcoming this kid into this life that we already have. Like so naive and
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's definitely
dumb.
how it works.
So, but I was really excited, but I was just like, this is gonna work out. And then I remember it's 4 weeks out from due date, and the doctor, we went to an appointment, and the doctor was like, look, he could come tomorrow, or he could come at his due date, but like he's ready, like his size is great, he could come tomorrow. And that was the moment that I was like, tomorrow? Like I'm not ready for this. I don't know how to be a dad, right? So I went home, and we actually had teenagers over at our house that night from our ministry, and we were telling them about the appointment, and I told them, I want all of you to pray that it's not tomorrow and it's 4 weeks from now. And it was tomorrow. It was the next day after that.
way.
Yeah. He was born 3.5 weeks early, and he was fine and healthy, but that panic set in and for one day. And then it was like, all right, he's here.
Yeah. He didn't give you much time to think about it.
That's right.
So tell me about Will, and obviously we'll talk about Reese too. Your first kid.
Yeah.
Dude, it's funny. The first time I met you, I saw Will a few minutes after. I'm like, okay, there's this kid.
Yeah.
Because, dude, spitting.
Get told that all the time. In fact, he's 15 now, so he just got his permit.
Yeah.
Went down to the tax office, whatever to get his permit, and they had him take his picture, and then they needed my license for something, and I handed it over, and the lady was like, wait a second, give me his license back. And she like took it and held them up side by side. And then she started showing her coworkers, like, look at how much they look alike in these two pictures. And, for me, there's like a certain level of like pride about, like,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
he's my son, like I'm so proud of that. And for him, he's like, oh man, they say I look like dad, like he feels differently about it.
It's not a bad thing, dude.
I love Will. Him and I have a lot of the same interests. Like now he's old enough to like really know fantasy football, like we do, are in fantasy football leagues together, which is great.
We're gonna talk about that
a
off
natural,
the air.
yeah. It's just a natural connecting point for us. I really enjoy like watching him learn new things, like driving. Like that's just all pride for me. And so he brings me a lot of joy in my life, and also it's like marriage, right? Like
yeah, oh yeah.
You learn how to be a parent, and the learning process is challenging, and you make a lot of mistakes along the way, and you learn a lot, and you try to do better, and so it's all of that's a part of it too. But he's great.
Extremely challenging. It is not easy. It's marriage. I don't think it tests maybe your loyalty, your judgment in some cases. Being a father has that's patience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. For me, marriage shows you how selfish you are.
Yeah,
like we are all selfish, and I think we're naturally selfish, and then we grow up, and we have to learn to be selfless.
Yeah,
and marriage is like a huge part of that. This is not about me anymore, just me,
But there is there is also like a level of healthy selfishness.
Sure.
To
boundaries
where
and
yeah, exactly. You know exactly where I was going with that. Like
yeah.
My poor wife's in there dealing with the kids. Like I was supposed to do this again yesterday as well.
Yeah.
I was just so tired from the weekend, and we had Robbie's thing coming up.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna go up there, but yeah. She obviously makes a lot of sacrifice. So I can't imagine how she feels sometimes. Like maybe I should be a little bit less. It's
a balance, right?
It is.
That's a part of. I mean, she's learning that too, right? Like right now in her taking care of her kids, right? Like your kids as you're in here, right? That's an exercise in selflessness, and so it's weird to say this because you're the beneficiary of it right now, but also like it's like growth, for all of us when we get to do something and sacrifice for someone else. It's it's forming us into a different type of person, a better type of person. So.
It does feel better. It feels better to give than it does to receive.
Sure.
All right. So when I had Coach Whidden in here, we talked about, actually, I'm sorry, it was Robert Fleming. We talked about how, because he's the same way, son, then a daughter.
Yeah.
Said your son makes you a dad.
Yeah.
And your daughter makes you a father.
Yeah.
So tell me about Reese.
So Reese has taught me about, she has enabled me to have more grace for myself. And I'll tell you why that is, because I have struggled with shame. Like I can tell you, like I said, like it's easy for me to point out my own weaknesses and the ugliness and selfishness in my own heart and life. And for a long time, I struggle with empathy. I have always struggled with empathy. Like it's work for me to like sit down and be like, hey, let me put myself in this person's shoes and like try to think about how they might be feeling, or my wife, how she might be feeling, which is probably a reason why we had 14 years of struggle in our marriage, because of my struggle with empathy. Certainly was a part of it. Reese is the most naturally empathetic person I've ever met in my life.
Really?
Yes. It comes incredibly natural for her. And so somewhere along the way, it helped me to have grace for myself, that like, I thought, man, there's something wrong. There's like something really wrong with me. There was times when I was younger that I thought there's something really wrong with me. Like there's something wrong in my heart that like, and then I watch her and I'm like, this is a gift that she has. Like, it's not something that we instilled in her. It's not something that she developed through some sort of like, system of habits and disciplines. It was natural for her. And that's not an excuse for me to act in unempathetic ways.
Right.
But at the same time, it gave me this like, oh, like I also have some natural gifts and things that I'm naturally good at. And so maybe not be so hard on the things that I'm not naturally good at, not carry that shame around. But but if you want to ask about her, she is the most empathetic. She is an amazing, like on your birthday, she like for me, I mean, she like makes the biggest day out of your birthday, and just like she has worked on some sort of art project for days, to give to you on your birthday or Father's Day or whatever. So she's just sweet and like I said, just empathetic, emotionally, way more emotionally mature than she should be for her age.
Yeah. It's got to be encouraging, because coming into the rough years for a girl, like
for sure, yeah.
So we'll go back to Texas. We'll go back to your youth minister. When do you start feeling the next, like the bigger call?
Yeah. So it's first realizing that I can't do both. I can't be a good dad and be a good youth minister. Just the schedule of a youth minister, if you're doing it well, you're gone a lot. You still, like for me at least, I still had these like office hours. And at the same time, if I was going to be doing youth ministry well, I was going to be at events, these teenagers' events on Monday and Tuesday and Thursday night.
If you were going to be a good one.
That's right.
Yeah.
And going on trips in the summer for, I'd be gone for 3 or 4 weeks every summer, taking teenagers on trips. And at some point I was like, all right, I've got to, like, my kids are at home spending the summer while I'm in and out the whole time.
Right.
And so that was, I first felt this push away from youth ministry. But also, I had gotten just affirmation during my time as a youth minister, any chance that I had to preach or teach adults. People saying, "Hey, you should consider that later on. Like when you're done with youth ministry, you consider that." So it was always in the back of my mind that like, I wonder. And so naturally, as I knew that youth ministry was coming to an end, I started to think about what was next, and I ended up staying at the same church and doing like associate minister role, like doing adult education in small groups. And it was probably a bad decision, even though I think God worked in it. But it was safe.
Yeah.
That opportunity came, and I was like, I like this church. I'll stay here. And, but I felt like really what God was pushing me towards was preaching. And so after a couple of years of that, I told Lauren, I was like, I don't think I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I think we need to look for a preaching position.
So did that happen at the church you were in, or did you have to look for a new church?
I had to look for it. Well, it's interesting. At the same time that I was making that decision, the pulpit like minister, the preacher, resigned at the church, and so there was some hope at the time that would happen, and there was a search process, and I was one of the candidates, got down to the final two, and they chose the other guy, and which was the right decision for them, and it ended up being the right decision for me as well.
What was that feeling like in the moment, though?
That was disappointing.
Yeah,
and I think it was more. I hope this doesn't sound like prideful or arrogant. I knew that the youth ministry that I did had gone well, and I knew that like the church liked me and respected me. So I didn't have this like sense of like, oh, this means that all of this was a failure in the past. But it did feel like rejection. Sure. I mean, it was tough.
Never feels good.
Yeah. And it took me a while, even after I got the job here, for me to let go of some of that.
So when did you get the call from Palo Alto? Was that pretty much immediately after, or?
So I got a call literally the day before they told me no. And the guy that called me said, "Hey, we're looking for a preacher in Florida, and we think you might be the person." And I was like, there's no way.
How do they find you though? Like that's
so yeah, that's a great question, and I could talk for a long time about this, but there was a group of ministers in Texas that put on these minister retreats for 8 couples that are in ministry, and they just want to bless. It's free, like somebody else pays for it, and these 4 couples have been in ministry for 30 years each. And they just go out there and they pour into 8 younger ministry couples. And we had been on that maybe 2 weeks before that. And one of the guys that put that on knew somebody here that was helping lead the search. And he called him and said, "Hey, I got a guy that you should reach out to." That's how they found me, is just through these kind of weird connections.
Yeah.
I could talk more about this, but like we had to back out of that retreat. And then last minute, our plans cleared up, and we called them back, and we were like, for sure they filled this spot. And we called back, and they were like, "Hey, we just had somebody else back out, so you're in."
Wow.
Like it was
if that ain't God, what is, right? Yeah.
And so he called me and said, "Hey, we think it might be you." I said, I'm it's really nice of you. I assure you it's not me. And
yeah, right. Here you
I
are.
didn't think there was any chance we were moving out of Texas.
So you came to visit.
Yeah.
So to talk to me about that first visit. Like because I know a lot of the members have been there for a long, long time. So who are some of the people that you met? What was your first impression of Palo Alto?
So it was a whirlwind. Like we were there for 2 days. Most of the time we spent with the elders and their wives. And then there was a Wednesday night where they told the church, like, "Hey, you need to be here tonight. We're going to, like more people came to the midweek than normally comes to the midweek on that night." And they asked me to preach. And so, and then it was just like, so I preached, and we did a short Q&A with Lauren and I. and then it was like just, lead me through 150 people. And so it was a blur. That part was a blur to me, but here's what I remember is, the Church of Christ has some traditions and some traditional, like, theological beliefs that, most of them I appreciate and love and agree with, and some of them I want to, like, push back on a little bit. And so I wrote a sermon that was like, I need you to know who I am. Like, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to push back right now, right off the bat. And so I preached a sermon that was like pushing back. And in fact, one of our close friends now says that when he heard me preach, he said, well, we're never going to hire that guy. and it was, but at the same time, when I was meeting with the elders, I told him, I said, you can ask me anything and I'm going to be fully honest with you. And so they asked me about some matters of the church that are either traditions or theological beliefs. And I was able to be very honest about the ways that I disagree with certain aspects of our tradition, and was very blunt about that. We had lots of conversation about that, and it didn't scare them off. Even if they might disagree a little bit, some of them, with what I said, they were still okay with the fact that I held some different beliefs.
Are you comfortable sharing maybe one or two off the top of your head of those beliefs that you kind of pushed back against?
Yeah.
If you're not, we'll move on. I know I hate to put you on the spot like that.
Yeah.
But it's,
they talked to me about like some of the growth areas that churches should experience. And I'm not saying that they disagree with this, but I think it's important for me that the church has a different posture towards marginalized people in our culture. Specifically like the LGBTQ community, like the church needs a different posture than what's been shown traditionally.
Absolutely.
And so that's an important point for me. I think that we underutilize the giftedness of women in our church tradition. And I think there's some opportunities to do more. And we have, since I've been there. And so, I think those were the kind of the things that we talked about, and it was respectful, and
yeah, of course. I do feel the sentiment on a lot of that, actually, because that's part of the reason that it took me so long to kind of get my feet wet again into the church, is because, like, I'm not here to learn about hating anybody.
That's right.
And it feels like that's what we're doing a lot of the time, as almost like they try to. When I say they, obviously I don't mean Palo Alto. I don't mean the church I grew up in. I just mean like that, maybe that older generation that we were talking about earlier. They didn't have that relativity nature. They didn't have that vulnerability nature to where they could say, like, the empathetic nature. How does that make them feel? Like that, it's not bringing them closer to Christ.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do. Like, sure, but that doesn't make anybody, like, if you're walking on the side of the road and you're like, that Burger King looks good, but the Burger King employees are all outside screaming and cussing at each other, you're probably like, no. And then they start screaming and cussing at you. You're like, well, certainly not now, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, well, that makes Waffle House better. Drew said Waffle House off camera. No, I want my Waffle House employees screaming and cussing at each other. Okay, like, let's get that straight.
I do want to just make one thing clear. Like, I don't think that the leaders of our church disagree with me on wanting a different posture towards marginalized people at all.
No,
I think that that it's probably not something that is talked often about in an interview, right?
Yeah.
But so and that was on their end. They're like, we want to talk about these things. So that's really, like, when we talk about, like, hey, what is it that drew you? It's like the openness to having a conversation about something that is challenging.
Yeah,
that is challenging for the church and has traditionally been challenging for the church, and to have an open conversation about it. So I don't want you to get the idea that, like, the leaders of our church were like, oh, we disagree on this. Not at all.
No, but
not at all. But it's just not something that we talk about a whole lot in our faith tradition.
The hard conversations have to be had, and
right.
and that is a harder one. No, I didn't mean to put off that perspective.
No,
Perspective at all.
I was worried that I did.
No, yeah, you're good. It was a tough question. I hit you with a tough one right there because that's always been. I figured that's probably the direction because I know that I felt our church was different in that capacity.
Yeah,
and you could just kind of see that, and you want everybody to feel comfortable walking through those doors, man.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is every person that walks through is bringing baggage with them, right? Like every time I told Lauren the most convicting time of my week is on Sunday mornings when I'm at my house and I'm going over my sermon, because that's when I preach to myself. You know, when there's too much going on in my head when I'm up in the pulpit on Sunday morning, but like on Sunday morning, I'm preaching to myself, and it is often that I'm going through this, what I'm about to say to the church and thinking, man, I'm really struggling with this. Like God's convicting me right now that I'm struggling with this. So we all walk through the door with baggage. We all walk through the door with sin. And where do we want people who are struggling, who are hurting, who are dealing with sin? Where do we want them? We want them with the body of Christ. Like we want them in the church. We want them with Jesus. You know, we shouldn't hope that there's any person that would feel like I don't feel comfortable going to that church, or I don't feel like welcomed at that church. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm thankful that I get to hear it pretty often that of people walking in and saying, "Hey, I felt welcomed at this church," even though I don't have everything together.
Right. So. It's a big deal. All right, so back to it. You do the interview.
Yeah.
You fly back home. You still think like, probably not?
No, I mean, on the flight, I remember Lauren and I talking on the flight, and like, I think I leaned over to her and I said, "Well, what did you think?" And she said, "I think we're going to move to Florida," which was like, and I was like, "I know, I do too," right? Like, so like when we were flying home, I think we knew, and we still we're going to pray about it, and we still had, conversations to be had and things like that. But we both walked away, and really we walked away feeling like this is a church that really values intergenerational relationships, that really values pouring into other people's kids, right? Like that's, I mean, that's a huge culture, characteristic of our church is there are lots of people that know and love my kids. And there are lots of kids there that from other people's families that I know and love, and that whose parents I know want me to like invest and speak life into their kids in the same way that I want them to do it. So we noticed those two things, and then we noticed that open-mindedness to have the difficult conversations and the desire to like, hey, whatever Jesus is wanting for our church, that's what we want. So like, man, it's just hard not to be drawn to that. It'll
make you fall in love. It really will. Like both of your kids were at Robbie's last night, right? Or was it just Will?
Both of them were there.
So both your kids were there last night. I didn't see Will was out playing with the guys, and all the girls were in the water, so I didn't really see them very much. But you didn't worry about them at all because you knew they were with somebody that
absolutely
because that guy Robbie Livingston, you talk about pouring yourself into people.
Yeah. So he, what's funny about him, for those that are watching that don't know him, he is a big personality, incredibly caring, like do anything, help you with whatever, incredibly caring, but also just a big personality, comes on strong.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So the joke was that we did not meet before I accepted the job. And the joke was that they like caged him. Like you can't go meet the new guy until he says yes and comes. So but since we've been here, he's just been a close friend, and he's been, so incredibly servant-hearted for us. And you're right, like he knows my kids and he loves my kids and speaks truth and life into my kids' life, and that's a huge blessing.
He got onto I hope you don't mind me saying that. So Will was like hanging on the volleyball net, and he gets on the Will yesterday, and I'm like, hey man, that's preacher's kid. You can't yell at the preacher's kid.
You can yell at the preacher's kid.
he's like, oh no, Matthew knows. He's with me. He's mine.
That's right. That's right.
He's awesome, man. So you get to Palo Alto. The move from Texas to Florida, sure, it's not easy on anybody. Your parents, your kids, because I know they're old enough to have friends at that point in time. Talk about that transition.
Yeah, it was challenging, but we felt by the time that we made the decision and we're moving here, we felt like a really clear call. Like, all right, this God has opened this door for us.
How long of a pause was there between the interview and taking the job?
It was probably, I would say, three weeks.
Okay, so it's a little bit of prep time, really.
Yeah,
okay.
But wait, between accepting the job.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So I think we interviewed in April. About 3 months later, we accepted the job, and then I started in July.
Okay. So
we had 10 weeks where we could sell we sold a house, we said goodbye. We had kind of this like respectful, end to our time in Texas, and that was important for us, and it was important for the church that we were serving in Texas. But yeah, it was challenging, and our kids were nervous. They were like, "There's hurricanes there." I'm like, "Yeah, there's hurricane. We'll watch it." But we've seen God's blessing for our kids. Like, even though that was hard for them, especially for Will. Because he had some really good friends in Texas that he had to leave, and it was hard for Lauren. We didn't talk about this, but Lauren's mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's when she was 51.
Jeez, so
really early, and she has since passed away. But when we moved, she was pretty sick, and that was really tough for Lauren to leave. With her mom in that state. So.
Jeez, there's that sacrifice again.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough. Your parents still around?
Yep.
Yeah. I imagine that's probably why you go to Texas.
That's why we go to Texas. I mean, yeah, and Lauren's dad's there too, and most of our siblings are there, and so we go see them. But yeah, they're still around.
So you talked about people pleasing, and in the document I sent you, you called it the root sin in your life.
Yeah.
Talk about that, because this guy over here to my right, that's off camera tonight, struggles with that as well.
Yeah, it is the root sin in my life. And the way that the Bible talks about it is they call it the fear of man. It's like the elevation of the opinion of people more so than like God's view of you. Like that's the way Scripture talks about it. And I don't know, man, I can't trace the root, but from an early age, I haven't been able to trace the root yet, but from an early age, like that I did not want people to be upset with me. I avoid conflict. I'm a 9 on the Enneagram, which is a peacemaker in the healthiest sense of the word. Like, when you're healthy, you're a peacemaker. When you're unhealthy, you will sacrifice truth. You will sacrifice justice. You will sacrifice mercy for the sake of peace, and you just want to keep your life safe, and so that desire to not have people upset with me, like when that's your goal, that's a horrible like mantra, or like goal for your life. Just don't make people upset with you. There's no conviction there. There's no this is really what's important, and I'm gonna act on that. Instead, it's just like, in any given moment, how do I not make these people around me upset?
Right.
And so, think about all the ways that could produce dishonesty and inauthenticity. And, I'm talking to you and you have a view of this. Okay, well, I'm going to agree with you. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to talk about the same subject with somebody that disagrees with you. I'm going to agree with them too,
Right.
And that messed with my brain and heart for a long time, because that's what I was doing. It's just being inauthentic. And
you feel like obviously you're still, it's a continuous healing process, but you feel like you're better now than
I do feel like I'm not like over that, but at the same time, that when I say 14 years of our marriage was really challenging, during the 14th year, I really had to come to grips with who I was and who I am, and start to push back against that and resist like those natural like personality tendencies that are not healthy. And so that year became a really critical year for me to learn about myself, to learn about my shortcomings and weaknesses in my personality, and to deal with that spiritually. Like that's not a behavior change. Like that's a heart change, and heart change is slow. Heart change takes a long time, especially if it's going to last. So I'm still very much in that process, but I have more conviction in my life, and I have way more integrity in my life than I did before, in the sense of, when I say I believe something, it's because I believe it, usually, instead of. Now I'll tell you, here's where I still struggle with it, is when someone says, where would you like to eat lunch today? Like Father's Day, my family was like, you get to pick lunch. All I can think about is, okay, what's something that all three of them are going to like?
Yeah,
so
right. Yeah.
On the less important things, I'm still give into that. But, on things that are important, I feel like God has grown in me some conviction. And
some of that's like, I don't want to hear it though. Like,
that's true. For Father's Day, I just don't want any complaints.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I could definitely relate to that. So I put a thing in here, and I told you a little bit about it earlier, but I kind of switched it a little bit. So I did rapid fire sermons.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a topic.
Okay.
And I'll give you a second to prep in your mind about it, and I want you to deliver just a short. I said 30 seconds earlier, but somewhere between 30 seconds to a minute, however you can, in the quickest way possible on these 5 topics. Give a short sermon on it.
Okay.
How churches can love better.
That's a great question.
I told you these were going to be hard.
Yeah. I think, again, I have, the older I've gotten, the more I have come to believe that most of the change that needs to happen, which that's what you're talking about, is how can a church love better? How can a church change from not loving as well to loving better? And that is not a behavior thing. It's not something you program. It's not something that you can. It's something that's got to happen naturally. And I think we only love better when we fully embrace that we are loved by God. And so I think in order for us to love better, we have to teach people that they are loved by God, and help people experience that they are loved by God. And because I really think that if you experience the love of God, you cannot help but that overflow out of you. In fact, Scripture speaks to that the end goal of love is that you have now loved your brothers and sisters. You have loved your enemy. That's the end goal. It starts with God's love for us. And as we receive that and that we embrace that, then it flows out of us to love others. That's a heart change. That's an embrace of the good news that no matter what, God loves you. So that's what I would say.
I did not feed him these beforehand, by the way. I didn't feed him these. That was good. That was really good. But organic at the same time. And that's kind of why I did this challenge, because you can't make that kind of stuff up.
This is a tough.
It's a tough exercise. That's why I give you prep time. I'll give you a second to let it ring.
Yeah.
Hypocrisy.
Yeah. There's a great quote that there's only 2 alternatives. There's only 2 options for hypocrisy. It's either you can be perfect or you can be honest. And so we obviously cannot be perfect, and so we have to be honest. And so you're not gonna find a church where there aren't people that are struggling with judgmentalism. We all struggle with that. You're not going to find a church where there are people that don't struggle with, drunkenness or greed or any other sexual immorality. Like there's no church where those sins don't exist, right? Our only option is to be honest about that. And you can't be honest about that. You shouldn't. I don't think you should be honest about that with everyone.
Fair,
but
yeah.
you need some people that you can be honest about your struggles with. And hypocrisy for me is when you say you are one way, and in reality you're not. And so say what you really are. We need to get way more comfortable with saying, I sin in this way. I struggle in this way. There's no, not saying it doesn't make it less true. It just makes you hypocritical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of a good segue into the next one, which is mental health.
Again, I mean, it's, to me, mental health is about being honest about who you are, and about what you're struggling with. Like, I mean, I think there's a real, in fact, I read something recently that this idea that we are created in God's image in order that we might reflect God to other people. And so there's this component of, okay, well, let's learn about this God who we're made in his image so that we can reflect other people. And I think church people are pretty good most of the time. If you've been going to church for a long time, you're pretty good at learning about who this God is. It's much more challenging to learn about who you are and the ways that you struggle to reflect God's image to other people. And I think we are so distracted by technology. We're so distracted by our busy schedules that we are not very attentive to our souls. We're not very attentive to what's going on in our heart. And so again, it starts not with behavior. It starts with being very attentive and doing like personal inventory. And I don't think that's a one-time thing. I think it's a daily thing, a personal inventory of, hey, what is going on inside of me? I told, I think this is true for most people. It's certainly true for me. I've told my closest friends, if you ask me, what is God doing in your life right now? And I don't have an answer for you, then you should worry about me, because that means I'm not being attentive to what God is doing. I'm not being attentive about what's going on in my heart. And that's a real challenge for a lot of us. It's a challenge for me to not be attentive to it. So I think it starts there.
Love that.
And don't be afraid to get counseling. Like, there's no shame in that.
No, absolutely.
There's certainly no shame in that.
That's a whole bigger conversation too, man. It's never worked for me. Like my everything's always, what we did Saturday night has always been better for me.
Yeah.
So, but I think that people need to be 100% open to that idea, and just so I do better when I can talk about what's going on with me and people don't try to fix it. Because somebody brought this up to me earlier. I know the solution. The solution is the problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the problem isn't the hard part about what I'm going through. It's that I know what the solution is, and I'm struggling with the resolution.
Yeah.
Per se. So that's so for me it is when a lot of the times and I'll be very specific with you, as you've seen. I'm like, I just need you to pray with me. So hear me out.
Yeah.
And what would you do? But it is, if you feel that kind of call, you got to take it. You got to, if you feel the urgency to go to therapy or anything like that, it is very, very important.
I just think there's a lot of people that are drowning in a problem that they've been wrestling or swimming in for a long, long time, and they're trying their best to get out of it, and it's not working. It's not working.
Yeah.
And at some point, you just got to admit that I can't do this, and with all of the tools that are available, I can't do it. I need some help, and whether that's a group of friends that you can get together and have a conversation with or pray with, or it's going to counseling. You gotta recognize when you can't do it on your own.
It's very it's not one size fits all.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Two more.
Okay.
Financial status.
What do you mean by that?
So let's go, or we'll just use the word money.
Okay.
How about that? Because I was thinking financial status, feeling like you aren't as involved in the church because of your financial status. Maybe that's kind of what I had in mind when I said that.
Yeah. Feeling like you're not as involved.
Feeling like you aren't as important. That's something that I felt,
okay.
or not at our church per se,
Yeah.
that is something that was. I'll give you the backstory. Maybe that'll help you fold your answer. I know, and I know I've told you this before, but while we were searching for a church, we ended up in a church that said your walk with God is not complete until you pay your tithe and offering every week.
Okay.
And obviously, we know the importance of tithe. We know the importance of offering. But I didn't. That message didn't resonate with me because I'm not somebody that can pay that every week. It's just not a thing. So that's really, I guess, where this question came from.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you think about what Scripture has to say about money first, I mean, just first and foremost is that one is money is a tool, given to us by God, and it is a great tool, and it can accomplish a lot. Money in our world can accomplish a lot. It is a horrible, 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 horrible master. It's an awful God. And when you make your life about accumulating more money and as much as you can, like when that becomes your life goal, the fruit of that will be really destructive in your own heart, in your own soul, and in your own relationships. I think that's what Scripture has to say about money. It's a good tool. It is an awful master. And so when you extrapolate that to someone who makes $10 million a year versus someone who's making, $12 an hour or whatever, you like the truth is still the same, and the way that is heard and embodied by those two people are going to be very different, but the truth is still the same. Money, good gift, horrible God, but when it comes to church and how we view people, I do think that, I'm not saying our own church, but I'm not not saying that we're exempt from this, but I think churches have struggled to not just elevate people that have had more success in the world. And I do think that's antithetical to what Scripture talks about. In fact, I mean, James, in the book of James, chapter 2, he says that to the church, you cannot show favoritism based on money. If you show favoritism to the person who walks in, who's wearing nice clothes, and, James didn't say this, but driving a nice car and who's got the nice job, you are being ungodly. That is the opposite of the heart and character of God, who does not look at external things, but looks at the heart. And so certainly the church should not be showing favoritism based on that.
But it is important. Tithe and offering, very important.
Yeah. In fact, Jesus says it's the main competitor for your heart with God. I mean, he says in the Sermon on the Mount, he says you can't serve two masters. You can't serve money and God. And I think when he uses money as an example, he's saying this will be maybe the main competitor in your heart for the place that God should have.
It's deep. That's tough. That's
tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Church hurt. That's the last one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you also experienced this. And
I have. Yeah.
In a big way.
Yeah. And, man, you asked me, what are some goals that I have within my profession? And, again, this is not a spiritual gift that I've developed. It's not a spiritual gift that I've developed. It is a gift that God has given. I'm not an ambitious person. I don't have this dream of being a mega church pastor and writing a book and having tons of people listen to me online. That's just not. It's just not in me, and I didn't develop that. That's natural. So, but if I were to say what is my goal for myself as a pastor and for our church, is to say I don't want to hurt people, and I would love it if people who've experienced church hurt could come to our church and realize that there are communities of people that are trying to follow Jesus who aren't interested in burdening your life with more shame and with more judgment, but instead are just inviting you to experience the gifts that God has for us in community, in a loving, Christ-centered community. And so, and I think when the church is at her best, then we are welcoming people who have been hurt in any number of places, maybe in churches that have struggled with that, but also out in the world who are welcoming those people, and those people are experiencing healing. That the church is supposed to be a place where healing is felt.
Likened it to a hospital.
Yeah, absolutely.
People that pretty much anybody that visits the hospital is there to be healed in some way.
Yeah, that's right.
Sick, injured, and of course, the family that comes with them. It's very, very similar in many ways.
Yeah. Well, and also you just think about what, Luke, who wrote the Gospel of Luke and the story of Jesus' life, he says that I'm writing this to tell you what Jesus did, his ministry. He's like, this is the way that he lived. But then he writes a second book about the church. He wrote Acts, and he says in that book, he starts it off by saying, in my first book, I told you all the things that Jesus began to do and teach. And this is the sequel to that. And Jesus is going up into heaven. He's resurrected. He's going up into heaven. This is the church, but it's still a story of what Jesus continues to do. The church is supposed to be a people that continue to do what Jesus did. When you look at Jesus and the way that he treated people, people didn't walk away from him. People that were hurting didn't walk away from him with more hurt, with more shame. They walked away experiencing healing and knowing that they're loved. I mean, then that's what we should be at church. We should be extending that. People should be feeling more loved and experiencing the healing that they need.
We'll say it's we get that for sure.
Good.
So you're doing a great job of leading that, but also the members of our church do an incredible job of. You mentioned earlier about pouring into people's children. Like everybody there knows Carson and Ezra's names, and it's been really cool watching the other ladies be excited about Ezra's growth, just as excited as we are.
Yeah.
They're taking videos of him, pictures of him for us, and telling us all the stories. And
I mean,
what a blessing.
Yeah, and like, I hope that that is like, yeah, those women are great, and there's the people in the church, like they're great. I love them, friends, and they're brothers and sisters. Like I love them. And also, that is the gift of being in a community that loves Jesus. Like that's the gift of God to you, and that's what I would want anybody that's watching this to know, is that if this experienced church hurt, or not, hey, come to Palo Alto because you're going to find everything you've ever wanted in church. Not at all. But hey, there are, like, I think even most churches are trying to be communities where they help people experience the love of God, like the gifts that God has for us, which are very much as hands-on as a person taking a video of your kid because they're excited about the growth that they see.
It's awesome. We have one goal as a church. What is it?
We are following Jesus together for the sake of the world.
Always love that. Always love that. All right, so I feel like we could easily go another hour. Let me see, because I want to get into gratitude, but all right, I got one more thing.
Yeah.
You didn't grow up in a Church of Christ.
I did grow up in a church.
You did grow up in a Church of Christ. Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry, that's a complete misstep there. The differences from growing up Pentecostal for me, and going into the Church of Christ, very. I don't want to use the word unorthodox way of going about some things, but I do want to ask about why some of the things that happen are a thing. So I will start. So I have three of them. Elders is the first one, because that's something that I've never experienced. Okay. So what are elders and why are elders?
Okay. Well, so that's a great question. One is that Scripture talks about a role of pastor, elder, shepherd. There's different terms, but these people that oversee the church, and so that has looked like a lot of different ways. At Palo Alto over the last 30 years, it's certainly looked a lot of different ways in different churches. But most Christian traditions, faith movements, whatever you want to call streams in the Christian faith, have some sort of overseeing, shepherding body of leaders, and so we call them elders. and their main role is to shepherd the church, and then to oversee like big picture things like money, like budget, and to shepherd the vision, to make sure that the church is to make sure that I'm like staying the course for the vision that God has given us.
I added a fourth one to the list because I want to hit on that transparency. That's been a big thing, and that's now obviously we're still in our first calendar year per se of attending the church. But at the turn of the new year, there was a church budget meeting, and it was like, here's everything that was spent last year. Here's kind of what we got for this year. So how important is that? Is that a Church of Christ thing, or is that a Matthew Morgan thing?
It's neither. It's
okay.
I mean, it's neither. I had never been a part of a budget meeting before I came to a church-wide budget meeting before I came to Palo Alto. At the church I grew up in, at the church I served at in Fort Worth. So I love that's a part of, and I think it is really important.
I liken that to the night that I fell in love with the church.
Yeah. I mean, I think it helps to build trust, right? Like it just helps to, we're asking people to invest in what God is doing at our church, to invest with their time, which is as valuable as money today for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Invest with your time, invest with your money, invest with your giftedness. Like those are all big asks that we're encouraging people to do. That we should not expect that unless there's a level of trust in the leadership, that the time that they give, resources that they give, that they're being used the way that we say that they're being used, the way that God has called us to use them. And so I think it's huge for the trust, the relationship that the leaders have with the church.
Because that's a big thing for a lot of people. Like it's churches aren't, maybe the wrong way to put it, aren't held accountable enough.
Sure.
And there's a big level of accountability in that. And
and there are some, there's some movements where the lead pastor, the preacher, or whatever, has a lot more like to do with that than I do. One, I'm not gifted at it. Like Lauren's a CPA, which is so good for me because I'm so unorganized with money, and like I can help provide some vision for starting to build like ministry ideas for a budget. But when you're talking about the nuts and bolts of that, like I literally keep my hands out of it because I'm not good at this, but also like I want a degree of distance from it. I want there to be multiple people that are multiple people that are working on it together, so that there is some, just transparency and again, a lot of church happens because they find out, what we thought was happening, not happening.
It's not right. Yeah. It's indeed not the fact. Yeah. Acapella.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest like culture shock for us.
It's the biggest distinctive of the most easily recognized distinctive of our tradition. I will say not all churches of Christ are instrumental. There have been, over the last 20 years, there's been more and more churches that have embraced instruments, that have chosen to have an instrumental service and an a cappella service. But when our movement formed, really when our movement split off, and kind of we're a part of the Stone Campbell Restoration movement of churches. We split with the Christian Church, and one of the distinctives that the Church of Christ and the Christian Church, the Church of Christ was a cappella and the Christian Church was not. It's not the only one, but it's maybe the one that's most easily noticeable. There was a time that that was argued as like, and there probably are still some people that believe this way, and I don't mean any disrespect to them, but I don't believe this way. But there was a time where a dominant view years ago, decades ago, was it's the biblical way to worship, and it's, in my opinion, built on some flimsy theology. Like in my view, again, that it's hard to say no disrespect and then and then say theology. I'm sorry, but we don't explicitly see it written about in the early church, and we kind of adopted this idea that like we should be silent where the Bible is silent, instead of where I would see it is, hey, that there's some freedom then. If the Bible's not directly speaking for or against it, like there's some freedom for us. So it's not something that I think most people that worship at our church see as like this salvation issue or essential practice of our church, but it is a tradition that we have continued to carry on.
One thing I like about it, and it took a while to get to this point, but it kind of, as an audience member, forces interaction, forces participation.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, it's like it's noticeable, really.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, there are some good things about it. I'd be interested to know what you think. Like it's just jarring. It's just jarring when that hasn't been your church experience, because there's really nowhere else that you're hearing, a cappella music. Do you remember there was an a cappella show that came out a few years ago, like a reality TV show where it was a competition where it had to be all a cappella. And I remember there were a lot of people in the church who were like, oh, look at this, there's an a cappella TV show. But you don't hear a cappella music anywhere. So it is jarring.
Right.
When you walk in the first time and you start to sing and there's no instruments. Yeah.
I think it's always impressive, the pentatonics, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And the last one is communion every Sunday.
Yeah.
Because that grew up where you would walk in to the church and you were like, oh, I guess we're doing communion today.
Yeah.
It's like maybe once or twice a year.
Yeah. Yeah. And in Acts, the early church, it talks about them sharing a fellowship meal together, like communion meal. It was very different than what we have today with the trays, but it had them like doing that on the first day of the week. And so if we want to get really deep with the Church of Christ tradition, it is that we were formed out of this idea that we want to restore the early church, and whatever the early church was doing, we want to do. Now, whether we're doing that or not is a whole nother conversation. We're in pews with screens and, microphones, and, we're not in homes, and, so there's all sorts of ways that becomes convoluted, but that was the heart of it. We want to restore the early church. Some people think that's a great idea, and some people think that that's not a great idea. There's advancement, and the Holy Spirit's moving us forward and all the things like that. But that's where that comes from. Fairly good evidence that they were remembering the life and death of Jesus through this act of a meal on the first day of the week. And so we've continued that practice.
It's also taken some getting used to, but we like it now. And it's that's that connection moment. I think for you have to be connected right there.
Yes, I it's one of my favorite favorite practices of our church is doing that, because it is this. For some people, it's the most meaningful time in worship. And for all of us, it's an opportunity every week to say, hey, what is it that we're really about? What is it that we're really doing here? We are trying to embody the life and way of a man who gave up his life for us. And then, what does that mean for the way that we're going to live the rest of the week? With the hope and joy of that, but also the call of sacrifice for that. So it is this time to reflect and to remember who we really are every week.
Well, Matthew, this has been incredible. I really appreciate you stepping in here tonight. I know I put you a little bit out of your comfort zone, but you didn't show that at all. So I appreciate you answering some hard questions in this. And you've been here before.
Yeah.
At the end of every recording, we are very big on gratitude around here. I need 3 things that you're grateful for this week or right now in your life.
Right now in my life. So we just got back from vacation, and my wife is amazing at planning trips, and it makes going on a trip all the more enjoyable because she does a lot of work in planning and looking at restaurants and just like the fun things to do to make it special. And she's efficient. That's one of her values is efficiency. And so it just maximizes our time. And so I'm thankful for my wife's giftedness in the way that she uses them to bless her family. Number 2 is I've got a friend in Texas that this week I've been connecting with, and he's got a just an awful plight right now, and his wife is severely sick with cancer, but he is just a really great man and a really great friend, and even in the midst of him, struggling with caring for his wife and watching his children, deal with his wife's sickness and her, pain and stuff like that. He's a really, really good friend. And so I'm very thankful for him. And then the other is, I don't know, this week, and I'm going to talk about this on Sunday at church, but
I won't be there. So good.
Oh, okay.
Good,
well, good.
Yeah.
I left church Sunday just thinking, man, there's just so many newer people here that I really wish I could spend time with. And immediately, like, I felt like I had this thought or I don't know, I don't want to say it was like God speaking to me, but at the same time, it could have been like God, like, reminding me. At this same time this thought came in, like, I'm so glad that this church is not dependent on me knowing everybody really well, because they're so good at welcoming and like getting to know people and things like that. So I'm just thankful that I'm a part of a community that is welcoming and friendly, and that tries to get to know the new people in our church and things like that. So
it's ironic for them. You were like one of the first people we met. So
yeah.
Maybe it's time for an after church luncheon soon.
Yeah. I literally I've been having conversations with one of our elders about that this week. I'm like, we really need to just like set some parameters about like how are we going to meet these people, because it's hard when you've only got 20 minutes after church that you're hanging around talking.
Yeah, you got to touch everybody's hand.
And people, I love it, but people will come up and be like, I need to talk to you, and it's like, sometimes you get into a long, great conversation with somebody. It's all good, but you're missing all these other people. And so
those are the parts of it that I don't envy, I think, because I have social seasons where my battery will run it will run out, and I'm still going to go to church, but sometimes I'm just like, all right, we'll get the kids and we'll sneak out right the back gate at the playground. Like, hey, I love everybody in there. I was here today. My battery's on E.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do it. So I commend you for that. Because I know, and you don't have to say, but like, I know that battery runs on E.
Oh yeah.
I know it. I've seen it from you.
Yeah.
Before you came on the podcast here, I could sense that, because it takes one to know one kind of situation.
Yeah.
Like, that dude's exhausted.
There are times that I will get done preaching, and it's not because I don't want, there's not anything personal about it. I'm just like, I just want to go in my office and just like,
put your head down.
And then,
yeah.
And yet I don't do that. Instead, I'm always encouraged. It's one of my favorite times while we're at church is the 15 or 20 minutes after church.
Just a fellowship time.
It is. And even when I'm feeling really exhausted, it's always a blessing and rewarding for me to get to talk to people.
It's a good moment.
Yeah.
It is really good. Yeah. I hate that. I guess maybe there's a semblance of like that I take it for granted sometimes that like, do these people want to talk to you? Like, you should. You prayed for that at one point for people to want you, right? So, but
also, I mean, it is great to just look around and see that, like I went in to get my kids the other day from the auditorium, and I mean, it had to have been 30 minutes after church was over, and I'm like, we gotta go, we're gonna leave, and there's still probably 30 people still in the auditorium, hadn't even made it way out to the foyer yet, and because they're talking, and I love to see that too.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah. That's what makes it so great, I think. Yeah. It really is.
For sure.
I do want to share a moment as well. I usually don't do this, but I have to make sure that I shout these people out, especially since we're not having a Leave It at the Table episode this week. Very, very grateful for 3 groups of people. First, I'm going to start with this guy over here, Drew Gorman. Number 1, for being here tonight, sacrificing your Monday night to come and run the board, because we always talk about it ad nauseum. I can do it, but it takes away from my attention here. And so, like, that was one of my biggest regrets when I had Coach Tommy Joe Wooden on. Well, not my biggest regret because I didn't switch the microphone settings, but having to run that the whole time, and it's only 3 or 4 buttons, but it's a pain. So I appreciate you being here tonight, and moreover, I appreciate you showing up Saturday night because I did not expect you to. I feel proud because I didn't put pressure on you to, and you showed up, so I didn't feel any guilt in that. I knew that when you showed up that it was just a genuine, you're one of my best friends, and you love me, and you knew that meant the world to me. And you showed up Saturday night, and I wanted the opportunity to say that to your face on camera so that you can never blackmail me. It has to be recorded or it didn't happen. No, but I really, I just wanted you to know that meant the world to me, and you being there and being there and participating in such a large scale meant a whole lot to me, and it those moments right there make me step back and realize like that's why we're so darn good at this together. That's why we've built nothing from something, or something from nothing. Jesus. Well, probably closer to that. Probably we've built nothing from something. We started in a restaurant studio. We got free food every week. Now we're in here like, dude, we should have ate before the show. So maybe it's nothing from something. Jeez. I love you. I want to shout out Robbie Livingston, Adam Brown, Cody Mason, Taylor Bain. Those guys stepped up in a way that I couldn't have asked for Man Up. Like the best things are the favors that are done for you that you don't know that you need. The prayers that you didn't know you're praying for. Those are the best ones. And all 4 of those guys stepped up in such a big way that there's no way I could pull that event off without them. And especially like it's like the fourth quarter of planning for this thing, and Adam Brown calls me, and we spent 30 minutes on the phone, and he executed everything to perfection that we talked about. And this is somebody that I did not know was even coming to this event, and it just stepped up in a big way. So shout out to all 4 of those guys for being there, being present, and being willing to not only participate but to lead some of these discussions, because there were some heavy ones. There were some tough conversations to have that night. But everybody their only words to me were like, it can't be once a year. So very thankful for you guys. And last but certainly not least, my wife Rachel, Sabrina Bain, Fiona Hampshire, Bree Hampshire, all 4 of them gave up their Saturday to show up and serve for us. And boy, that right there meant so much. And obviously for my wife, like she just supports everything I do. All these silly antics that I do. I've always got something new that I'm trying to work on, but she just supports me without question. And golly, man, I know that I know I do deserve it. But that feeling is always going to be here that I don't deserve the great things that she does for me. So I wanted to make sure that I shouted her out. And also, especially the girls that, like, they don't know me. But they know it's not for me. It's for the church. They show up without question. It's, what can I do? Okay, I really don't like the red tablecloths. I want to put the blue on it so it's closer to the event. Okay, we'll do that right now. And they just get on it. And it's like, without question, it's like, dude, like my vision was coming to life because these ladies were in there elbow grease and asking questions and really answering questions too. Like, well, okay, so it's a guy's event, but I need ladies' eyes here. What looks better? And it was fantastic, man. So thank you to everybody that stepped up for that. Thank you to everybody that was a part of that. Thank you to the church, obviously, for allowing us to do that there. And really looking forward to many more of those events.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you missed out.
I know.
Selfish. I told him, I'm like, this guy just doesn't care, man.
It's driving back. I'll be at the next one.
Well, we're setting it well in advance this time, not 2 weeks before it. Yeah. So, Matthew, once again, thank you for being here tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Hey, check out the channel. Leave it at the table. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. I don't know why you haven't yet, to be 100% honest, but I'll forgive it. Go check us out on Facebook. We have all kinds of fun stuff that we're doing. Danielle's always out snorkeling. She's crazy. She's doing a fantastic job running our social media because Drew and I are falling asleep at the wheel every single day. So shout out to Danny, shout out to Drew, and shout out to everybody that loves us and supports us. Happy 250th birthday to the greatest country in the world, the United States of America. We love you guys, and we will see you on Thursday, July 9th.